I think the Clippers might be the NBA team that I was most wrong about going into the season this year. I didn't think they were going to be very good. I kind of thought without Kawhi, this team was going to crash and burn. And it looks as though, I know we're still relatively early in the season, but it looks as though I might have been decidedly wrong. This team has been very, very impressive in a lot of different ways. And I know I just made a video on the Clippers just a couple days ago, but that video was a little more focused on Kawhi and his potential return. Don't think I gave quite enough credit to this team as a whole and talked enough about the guys who are contributing to making this team a squad that, despite a perceived talent deficiency against other top teams in the Western Conference, is playing really high-level basketball, finding ways to win a lot of games, and playing very, very solidly like a playoff team to this point in the year. Before we hop into the video, if y'all haven't already, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 1,000 subscriber mark on the channel. We're less than 50 subscribers away. Trying to get this channel monetized. Really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into Let's talk. So I got James Harden and Norman Powell's pictures up on the screen because those two guys have been the biggest two drivers of the Clippers' success so far this year, but it certainly is not just them. I really like what this team has done and what they've been able to do with, again, a roster of names that doesn't jump off the page at you. Look, tonight's win against the Trailblazers is not an exceedingly impressive win. The Blazers have been surprisingly competitive. I'll give them that. But at the same time, this isn't, at least on paper, a super impressive win, but winning by 22 is. Norm Powell with a 11 of 15, 5 of 7 from 3, 30-point performance, has had just an incredible year across the board, and that continued tonight. Zubac has been one of the most impactful defensive players in all of basketball this year, as has, by the way, Chris Dunn. And we'll talk about the defense more in here in just a little bit, but I think you got to start, honestly, with Norm Powell, because as good as Harden has been recently, especially he's had some big games, when you look at Harden's stats, I guess we'll start with Harden and then we'll talk about Powell. Because Harden, just statistically, 42% from 2 and 42.5 and 34.5% from 3 is really bad efficiency. Yes, he's still an elite free throw shooter and he still gets to the line a good amount, but he's also at barely a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, averaging 4.5 turnovers a game. The efficiency isn't great. Defensively, he's very good on the interior for a guard, but he's not a good perimeter defender. And he's turning the ball over too much. He's not shooting the ball well. Like, overall, when you look at the numbers, they're not actually all that great. He's right around league average true shooting wise, and I think his free throw ability actually brings that up. But he's still the driving force in a lot of ways. This team offensively, their primary playmaker. And at this point in his career, you do have to accept that James Harden is who he is as a player. Like, he's not going to change. He's not going to become this hyper efficient, really, really good system player. He is kind of the system. And even to this point in his career, he still kind of is. And to be fair, the Clippers need him to be on the offensive end of the court at times. But the thing that has been so important for this team is that their best player this season has not been James Harden. It's been Norm Powell. He's shooting 50% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, which is mind-boggling. Now, including tonight's game, that's 17 games into the season. That's more than a fifth of the NBA season at 50% from 3 on 8 attempts a game. Berserk efficiency. Will it last? Probably not at that level. Is he still going to wind up with a very efficient season? Yes. Now, the criticism of Norm Powell is that he is not a great playmaker. His assist to turnover ratio are basically even. Not ideal. But he doesn't really need to be a primary playmaker in this Clippers offense, which is good. Now, and his scoring has been unbelievable. And as long as he keeps scoring the ball at as high of a level as he has, at the efficiency level that he has, he can be the number one option on a Clippers team. I truly believe that. Like, offensively, with him and Harden, they have enough scoring in their starting lineup if both those guys are healthy to compete, is what is being proven to this point in the season. And look, I think the third guy to this team so far has really been Zubac. I mean, Zubac is having an incredible year, averaging 15 and 12, one of the best defensive players in the league so far this year. He's a great rim protector, despite the fact his block stats aren't crazy. Yes, I know he's not the most mobile big. He's not a floor spacer. He doesn't need to be, though. He's a really, really good inside big on both ends of the court, a really good defensive center, and is having a great year. Still, I don't feel like nationally gets enough recognition for how good of a player he is because it's not flashy. And that's the thing about Zubac. He's not a flashy player. He's not a guy who you watch play and most of the time it jumps out at you, oh my gosh, look at Ivica Zubac. But the dude's playing great. He's rebounding the crap out of the ball. 4 offensive rebounds a game is huge. He is playing great, great basketball and has been the third best player. Honestly, you could argue the second best player for this Clippers team when you look at Harden's efficiency and you consider Zubac's defense. He's been a crucial piece to this team this year and will certainly continue to be if they have plans of contention at all. And Derrick Jones is shooting 42% from 3 on almost 3 attempts a game. Another guy playing great basketball. Awesome offseason sighting. Defensively, he is a really, really good perimeter defender and a really good athlete. Obviously, as we know, DJJ is an incredible athlete. Now, he is a non-factor as a playmaker. He never has been. He is not a put the ball on the floor and create his own shot at all. It's the one reason why the Mavs replacing him with Najee Marshall felt like, to me, a little bit of an upgrade. And I think it is. I think Najee's probably more valuable than Derrick Jones Jr. But you can't take away from the impact that DJJ has as a guy who's shooting the three ball at a super high level, defending his butt off, and showing off that athletic ability on a night-to-night basis. He's a very useful player, even if he's not the perfect offensive guy or anything along those lines. Still playing his role perfectly. And Amir Coffey's been a really nice surprise off the bench as well, shooting the ball super well, averaging 10 a game. 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio is nice, especially for a guy who's not really tasked with that much playmaking. It's good to see that when he is, he's not screwing it up too much. And his efficiency as well has been really, really solid this year. So another guy who's playing a very, very important role and a very helpful role off the bench for this team. Chris Dunn has been maybe right up there with guys like Dyson Daniels, Davion Mitchell, whoever else you want to say of the best perimeter defenders in basketball. Chris Dunn is right near the top of that list. He really is. He's an incredible defensive guard. I feel like he and Zubac and Derrick Jones, those three guys have been the backbone of what has been one of the better defenses in all of basketball this year. And I think at the end of the day, the offense can be a little shaky when it's run through Harden at times, even with Norm Powell's incredible efficiency. This isn't like a super duper elite offensive team. They play without elite pace. They're middle of the pack in field goal percentage, slightly above middle of the pack in 3-point percentage, but they're not shooting like unbelievably amazingly well as a team from three. And yet they're really, really good because they're slightly above average offensively and they're relatively significantly above average defensively, a top 5 or 6 defense so far this year in the league. And I really have been very impressed by what they've been able to do. I mean, when you look at the record, look, 14-9 in a very tough Western Conference is a great spot to be. Now, unfortunately for them, they're 2.5 games out of the 11 seed. That's how tough the West is. Like it's just not going to get any easier. You know what I mean? They have to sustain this level of play. But my expectation was that they'd be closer to 9-14 at this point in the year, not 14-9. And so with Kawhi apparently returning to on-court action recently and on-court training, and the potential of him returning, I would think relatively soon, like probably not super duper soon, but by the new year wouldn't be shocking, or sometime in January. Like if they can continue to play at this level and continue to win close to 2 out of every 3 games, 3 out of every 5 games, something like that, win around 60% of their games, they're in a really good spot. They've won 8 out of the last 10 games. They've got a +3 net rating, which is really, really solid. I mean, it's not unbelievable, but it's definitely a good spot to be, especially again in a tough Western Conference. And look, they're playing really, really good basketball. Now, the schedule in the near future isn't easy. Outside of Utah, you have many, Denver, Houston, Dallas twice, Memphis, Golden State, New Orleans, who might be healthy-ish by then, although I don't think they're very good. And I mean, I think they're going to tank. But then San Antonio, OKC, like basically for the rest of December into January, every single game they're going to play pretty much is going to be a tough, competitive, challenging game, with the exception of Utah in all likelihood. So that's going to be the stretch, especially without Kawhi, that is crucial for this team if they do want to sustain the success and put themselves in a position to be a serious playoff contender. But when they get Kawhi back, with all the contributions they've been getting from all these role players, the defense that they've been playing, I mean, even Nick Batum, I know his numbers aren't great this year, but he is a veteran leader who is contributing to a good defense. Mo Bamba, I thought was going to turn into a really good player. It just hasn't really ever happened for him, and I don't think it ever will. And that their big man depth is questionable. Besides Zubac, it's guys like Bamba and Kai Jones. Like, it's not ideal. But they do have KPJ as well. KPJ's had an inconsistent for sure season, and not a season I would consider great. He's been really hyper inefficient from the 3-point line, which is not good at all. But if his shooting ability comes up, that will help them out offensively as well. But as a whole, this is a roster that has overperformed with names who are overperforming, and it is putting them in position to where if they can keep it up, if they can, I don't know. I'm still not convinced they can, but if they can, they're going to surprise a lot of teams this year and surprise a lot of fans like me who expected them to not be very good. They get Kawhi back, they're going to be a tough out. Let's just put it that way. A healthy Kawhi makes this team maybe not a serious title contender, but a serious upset contender at the playoffs, if nothing else. Like, they could make a run if Kawhi gets healthy and stays healthy. Big if, I know. But I'm far more intrigued by the Clippers and the potential of their season than I was previously before the season started. And that's what I will say about this team. We'll see if it lasts. I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Peace.